Hey guys, Elliott Bayev here for Fight2Unite, here with my good friend Alex Aung, running Common Ground Jiu-Jitsu in Pasadena. It's a new school you should definitely check out if you're in the area. Alex, first, why did you call it Common Ground?
Common Ground, it speaks to my personal philosophy about not just martial arts but life. Oftentimes there's so much conflict in the world, and that's understandable and natural. But if we can find something, common interest, common ground, it's the beginning of some kind of dialogue towards some kind of constructive process towards like peaceful conflict resolution. So, and the idea of, I like the word groundedness because Jiu-Jitsu is so ground-based.
Right.
So it just feels nice to play on words a little bit.
Very cool, very much in line with the Fight2Unite mindset. So you were mentioning that you've got a choke from the mount you think would be useful for everyone to see? Yes,
this is something I worked on when I was a brown belt. And I told myself, before I got my black belt, I really want to work on the crosschoke from the mount. It's something that I struggle with. One of the first moves you learn in Jiu-Jitsu, and for me it was one of the last moves that I had focused on before I got my black belt. So I can jump right into it. And there's a few details that are a little bit different than how I think some people show it. I'll show the move first all the way through, and I'll highlight the key differences. Defend. Oh yeah. Very cool. All right. So let me explain some of the key differences that, with this crosschoke. First off, I'm using double thumb grip. Now, there's some athletes that use that, but I think most people use initial grip, 4 fingers, and second thumb in the collar. So I'm starting with the first grip being thumb in the collar. So that's one difference. The other difference is I'm never posturing up like this in a vertical mount. The whole time I'm staying parallel to the ground in a low, low mount. I do bring my knees up high though, and that's another difference. So I first start in a nice cross-legged low mount. I get cross-face control, grabbing the chin or the cheek, get my shoulder in line with the jaw, and I move my head and my arm out to the side. So I get an initial misalignment on Elliott's head and spine. So Elliott really can only escape in one direction. As he starts turning in that direction, I slip my thumb in the collar, and I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone by stopping him turning sideways and setting my hand in the choke. This is a huge advantage. Instead of having to be upright, trying to look for that first hand in the collar, I'm staying nice and low, nice and heavy, chest on chest pressure, ankles crossed the whole time, and I get my first hand in, which is huge. Once my hand's in, I keep it in with my thumb and I set it deeper. I feed it, take all the slack out. With this thumb grip, the forearm choke is so much stronger than 4 fingers, and I can apply so much more pressure. And as I do so, Elliott has to defend, usually with both his hands. His elbows move far from his hips and his side, so I slide to a really high mount, knees up deep in the armpits, spread out really wide, my feet are on the hips. So this is another distinction. I'm going for my high mount, but I don't posture up. I stay super low to the ground, and all my weight's to my left. Elliott, of course, cannot bridge to his right, and he can't escape to his left either because all my weight's on the opposite side. This is a crucial step now. I have to base out on the other side. I do so with my hand first, then I replace my hand with my forehead. The whole time when I'm choking until the finish, I always have a body part posting so Elliott can't roll me in that direction. So hand first, then forehead on the ground. I'll posture up so you can see this next part. I now use my forearm and my elbow to push his head to the side, exposing his neck. So I'll do that with my head post on the ground. Forearm opens up the neck, bring my thumb to my chest, and I grab cloth. You don't have to have thumb in the collar. If you can, great. If not, just grab cloth. Once I've got a grip with my second hand, I'm going to shave his face with my forearm until it clicks underneath his jawline. Once my hand's in place, I'll bring my head towards the center line and apply body weight into the choke. And the difference between choking with the cross choke from the mouth, thanks Elliott, versus being from the closed guard or open guard on the bottom is I want to apply as much of my body weight into the choke as possible. And I can do so because of this double thumb grip and the really high mount position. So this is something that I worked on and I tested out, and it worked really well for me and my body type, and hopefully that might help folks out as well as you experiment and work on your cross chokes.
Well, you had a cool story as well of how you came to work on this and what decision you made to make it part of your game?
Yes, so I was a brown belt teaching and training under my Professor Sean Williams at 5-Star Martial Arts. And I told myself, and I told him as well, you know, I want to be a black belt that can apply the cross choke from the mount. I felt comfortable with arm locks and even Ezekiel chokes, but the cross choke eluded me. And I remember watching a video on YouTube of BJ Penn talking about how the cross choke is one of the first moves you'll learn, but one of the last moves you'll master. I said, I want to master this before I get my black belt. So I told Sean about it. He was very, very supportive. So I played around with different grips, and you know, I consulted Grandmaster YouTube and checked out all the videos I could find on cross chokes, and I studied all the different athletes and different folks. Some of whom, like Haji Gracie, people are aware about. Others maybe less well known. And I basically compiled the moves and the details that work best for my body type, and I just tried it out in the gym for about 8-9 months. I told myself the only thing I'm going to ever work to get is a cross choke from the mount. So if we started standing, I'd take the fight to the ground, have to pass the guard, get the side control, get to mount, stay in mount, and then work the cross choke. If someone gave me the back, I would still stay on the mount. If someone gave me the arm, I would still work on the cross choke. So I stayed super persistent until I was able to figure out some of these details for myself. And then, you know, every so once in a while I would check in with my professor, see what he thought. He was always super supportive. And I think that's really important, to be able to be a little bit of a Jiu-Jitsu learner, be able to learn from different sources, experiment, but always having the ability to consult with someone who can give you feedback as well. And that's pretty much how I developed this version of the cross choke that worked for my body type. And it was definitely one of the funnest projects I worked on, just because I had to go out there and research, and it really forced me. The other side effect was it made the other parts of my game tighter, because I had to get to the mount. So my guard passing improved, because I had to get to pass someone's guard if I was to get to the mount. My side control improved, because I had to stay in side control. My transition to mount improved. My mount control improved. So all those other parts of my games improved as well, because I had one singular goal. So my cross choke improved, but so did those other parts of my game.
So yeah, very cool. Thank you for sharing the technique. I mean, hopefully people can incorporate this into their games, but what I wanted them to hear as well is kind of how you came to that, and setting yourself a project that you might work on for 7 or 8 months in order to really master something you don't hear a lot of people talk about. And it's great to try to add a certain technique to your game, but to really focus on something like that for a longer period, and to notice the kind of outside benefits, such as improving all the other parts of your game if you're staying disciplined. Thought that would be something useful for the Fight2Unite community. So thank you for sharing, and we'll see you on the mats.
Thanks for having me.